Good morning, students. Once again, after a long gap, after series, we are beginning our third module. Module 3 is related with the concepts of planning and design phase. We know initial phase is requirement engineering, initial stage. Then, after that, the next stage is concepts of planning and design phase activities. So let us understand these planning and design phases in the module 3. So the syllabus topics in module 3 include planning phase. We can divide the whole module 3 into two parts, planning phase and design phase. So in planning phase we will discuss project planning objectives, software scope, empirical estimation models, COCOMO models, single variable COCOMO model, and we will discuss two variable COCOMO model. Then staffing and personal planning will be discussed. Second part of module 3 is design phase, as I mentioned earlier. So this include design process, design principles, design concepts, effective modular designs, top-down and bottom-up strategies, and stepwise refinement in the design. So let us begin with the concepts of planning. After the finalization of SRS document, that is System Requirement Specification document, we would like to estimate size of the project, cost of the project, and development time of the project. In many cases, customer may require to know the cost and development time even prior to the finalization of system requirement specification. The first set of activity in project planning is estimation. Best case and worst case scenarios should be considered so that the project can be bounded. There are several task set for the project planning. First task is establish project scope. That is, establish the software scope. The function and performance allocated to software during system engineering should be assessed to establish a project scope that is unambiguous and understandable at the management and technical levels. Scope can only be established by detailed discussion and reviews with the client. A statement of software scope must be bounded. Software scope describes the data and control to be processed. Function, performance, constraints, interface, and reliability should be described for the data and control to be processed. Determining the feasibility of the project is the second task set of project planning. We need to analyze the risks when we plan the project. We will discuss in detail about different types of risks and its analysis in the 6th module. Another important software planning task is estimation of the resources required, such as estimation of the required resources such as human resource, reusable software resource, identify environmental resource, etc. Fifth task is estimate cost and effort. We need to identify the problem, then we have to decompose the whole problem into small sub-modules. We develop two or more estimates using the size of the project based on the number of function points in the projects, based on the number of process tasks, or based on use cases, and reconcile the estimates. The estimation report can include the background to the estimates or statement of efforts, cost, and times estimation, proposed schedule or assumed resources, final products, assumption made, risk to meeting the estimates, and recommendations can be the part of the estimation report. The last task set of project planning is developing a project schedule, that is, establish a meaningful task set, define a task network, use a scheduling tools to develop a timeline chart, define schedule tracking mechanism so that we can determine the deadline for each of the activities, and thus as per the schedule the work can be progressed in the software development. Usually more people is needed in coding and testing than the requirement specification and maintenance. So schedule estimation should include contingency time in schedule. Software planning activity is a long-term activity. Planning begins before technical work starts and continues as the software evolves from concepts to reality and culminates only when the software is retired. So the major activities during software planning and its relationship or flow of the planning can be represented with this diagram. So the real purpose of this planning is the end result should be we need to finish the project on time, within budget, and with quality. The software project planner must estimate several things before a project begins. How long it will take, how much effort will be required, how many people will be involved, the hardware resources required, the software resources required, the risks involved. So all these aspects are considered by the activities like size estimation, cost estimation, development time, resources requirements, and project scheduling. There are some issues that affect the uncertainty in project planning that may include project complexity. For example, a real-time signal processing versus analysis of examination marks can be an example for this project complexity. Then project size. Sometimes as size increases, the interdependency between its components grows rapidly. So there can be some uncertainty. The degree of structural uncertainty can occur sometimes. That is, the completeness and finality of the requirements can be a problem. So project planning objectives. Project planning provides the roadmap for successful software engineering, providing a framework that allows managers to make responsible estimates of the resources and time required to build a software product is one project planning objective. The estimates are made within a limited time frame at the beginning of the software project and should be updated regularly as the project progresses. Estimates should attempt to define best case and worst case scenarios so that project outcomes can be bounded. Until the developer and customer agree on the scope of the project, it is impossible to determine what the project will cost and when the project will end. The overall goal of project planning is to establish a pragmatic strategy for controlling, tracking, and monitoring a complex technical project. I need to explain something more about resources. The development environment, hardware and software tools, sits at the foundation of the resources pyramid and provides the infrastructure to support the development effort. At a higher level, we encounter reusable software components, software building blocks that can be dramatically reduce development costs and accelerate delivery. At the top of the pyramid is the primary resource, that is, people. When we make planning, each of these resources should be specified by four characteristics. One, there should be a description of the resources. Then there should be a statement of the availability of the resource. Then the time at which the resource will be required need to be specified, and the duration for which the resource will be required need to be specified in the project planning. When we specify human resources, we need to identify the skill sets, for example, database or graphical user interface or Java or object-oriented programming. All such skill sets need to be identified. Then the development efforts need to be identified. We will discuss about the technique for estimating effort in the next class. You might have heard CBSE, that is component based software engineering. It emphasizes reusability. Such building blocks, often called components, must be cataloged for easy reference, standardized for easy application, and validated for easy integration. Software scope describe the functions and features that are to be delivered to end users. The data that are input and output, the content that is presented to users, performance, constraints, interfaces, and reliability that bound the system. The scope is defined using one of the facilities. One, descriptive way after communicating with all type of stakeholders. Two, a set of use cases developed by end users. Software feasibility or software scope has four dimensions: technology, finance, time, and resource.